They were like, can you actually fly planes, or are you only doing talking? So, guys, please welcome our panel to talk to us about Travelology. Thank you.
Hell of an introduction. Andy, let's just start with you. Where are we? What do you think the current state of travel technology is? And what are some of the current trends that you're picking up on?
Technology-wise, we've got a lot of the nuts and bolts, but we haven't yet brought a lot of it together into one place to make it generally really valuable.
And why is that? Do you think is the tech moving too quickly?
The tech's moving, but we're not. It's actually the user's not getting enough thought in terms of, I'm a traveller, I'll pick on Ed. I'm booking BA Iberia flights. I've got a BA app, I've got an Iberia app. It's a combination flight. I can't go in one and pick my seats and do the whole trip and manage it. I've got to flip between two apps, only one frequent flyer number. I think you are planning bringing them together at some point, but it's just not really. I've got too many apps on my phone. I can't go to one place and do it. If I go to Madrid, I can't use Uber. If I go somewhere else, I can't use that system. One app, one technology, bringing all the suppliers together would be a big answer to a lot of travel.
I suppose as one of the suppliers, Ed, and you certainly have the right to reply as well. That's the challenge, though, is this tech is moving so quickly, and the consumer is demanding much, much more. How do you keep pace with that?
I think it's about adapting, and adapting as quickly as possible. And I think part of the problem is, I think in general the travel industry could potentially be seen as laggards within the technological space. I think it's relatively fair to say that. I think, as Andy points out, the nuts and bolts are there, but I think it's in some respects the organisations themselves that need to develop and adapt to harness and embrace and enable their frontline staff and their systems so that they're compatible, intuitive, and responsive to traveller demand and traveller trends. So for me, I think it comes down to three things. It's about information to the traveller, it's about choice for the traveller, and it's about speed. And there are obviously, there's a hell of amount of complexity and a hell of amount of different systems that are sort of tied up in travel. A lot of them legacy, a lot of them are things that we've inherited, things that used to work well, things that perhaps are no longer fit for purpose. And I think you're seeing increasingly a lot of those things being undone, but that takes time, energy, effort. But we're getting there, I think, is the point. So on that note, I think we are, within BA, our own example, IAG Group, we're looking at creating a much more responsive, leaner, internal organisation that uses, just as we're looking at collaborative tools outside of business, but within business as well. So things like Yammer, Salesforce, etc. The use of iPads on the front line. I know Google Glass has been trialled and perhaps not worked, but those sorts of things that are actually being employed and are helping us, I think, catch up because we're a couple of paces behind. And then I think once you've got that infrastructure, once you've got that sort of capability in place, you can then do all sorts of wonderful things. I think a great space to be, and perhaps when we roll out Wi-Fi next year, a great space for us to be. I think an ideal scenario would be if a certain customer on our flight has a broken seat, it happens from time to time. Immediately we can go up with an iPad, we can talk to that customer, and here's your recompense, here's your refund, etc. Immediately debited into your account, or points given to your exec club account. That form is linked to our engineering department, who are ready to go on the ground as soon as that plane arrives. We've got that seat fixed. The other traveller isn't disadvantaged. We've got the plane back on the back in the air, and it's that sort of integrated, collaborative infrastructure that I think we need to be developing collaboratively as a travel industry to help us get there and take advantage of these sorts of things.
Now, Robyn, as a travel technology company, you guys need to be at the front line of that travel technology development. You almost need to set the pace. The likes of your Travelport, your Amadeus, you've got to be the market leaders. You've got to be out ahead and in front of it. How does that play out you're no longer a GDS, you're a travel technology company?
Absolutely. Travel commerce platform. I mean, that really is what it's about. But I think also, we have to always remember that this audience and our focus today is about business travel. So many of the apps you can get just as much information off the internet at any point. So many of the apps, it's possibly the one area that's not a shared economy. None of them, and as I said, nobody really talks to each other. So the apps aren't really conducive to a corporate strategy. So one of the challenges you have as a business is actually making sure that the information you're sending to your traveller is either pushed or is the correct information. Are you using it for travel itinerary management, or are you using it for expense reporting? You know, there's a whole lot of different. So all of the brands are creating, and with particular emphasis on the airlines. Everybody's got fantastic apps, but is it compatible with a corporate travel policy, for example? The other thing involved is data overseas is expensive. So primarily you're sending people out of the country and you're asking them to use an app that they can't access unless there's Wi-Fi, which they can only do when they get to the hotel, by which point the time the meeting's changed, hotel check-in is different hotel. You know, there are all sorts of different complexities. So, you know, if you talk about a travel policy, those are some really big considerations.
This relationship between policy and tech, Andy, how are you guys approaching it, and how do you solve this $1 million question?
Got one big problem in there in the, I would say, the procurement division. They've got a job to do. They're driving down cost. The traveller themselves, yes, we are moving more towards the pleasure. The industry's moving, but I've also heard in various meetings and conventions, I mean, Robyn, Ed, you've been at them as well, where the procurement guys are purely concerned about cost. They're not concerned about the value on the traveller. Your traveller needs, and it's time, one thing, but if you give him a better experience, he'll actually can work better, he's more efficient. A procurement manager is usually looking at the bottom line and trying to cut to save money, whereas, I mean, you've got more enlightened corporations now, but they are, it's balancing. I mean, in our company, yes, I'm going, next month I've got a couple of trips to Europe. I'm going to take a few days in between and stay over and have some fun. We're allowed. It actually saves the company money. Instead of doing 2 trips, do 1. But not all corporate policies are as flexible. And when I get there, the apps and things, yes, they work. But as a leisure traveller, I don't mind that. I mean, I'll spend a lot longer looking and buying my travel. When I'm on business, I just want to go, bam, 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 have it all done. But the corporate, there's still a big disconnect coming down between corporate policy, trying to save money, and actually get value. They're not always balancing value with actual value if they're driving too much on money.
But Robyn, this issue with procurement, that's not a new one. It's just taking a different shape and form. That this educating or trying to drag procurement along the value chain and discussion to show procurement that there is this value. Why are we still having these discussions?
Well, probably because travel and entertainment is one of the biggest line items on any budget. It really is the one item that is huge expense, open to abuse. It's the one area that they can, there's no physical equipment that they can check and count. So it has to be managed. There's no question about it.
And times are tough economically.
Absolutely. I mean, the market is declining, and the cost of travel overseas is extensive. So they have to manage it. So I don't think it's that we dragging procurement. I think procurement's dragging the business traveller who sees the Aries of the world and all those, you know, funky 24-hour London, and well, there's a budget that goes with that, and it's not certainly going to be paid for by the corporate. So I think the cost efficiency is the most important. So an app that can actually provide that kind of content, and as I say, if it's expense and reporting that they're looking for, that's all that procurement manager is going to be concerned about, not whether they can see London in 24 hours. That don't really give a.
But a lot of travellers as well want, I maybe want extra leg room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And often there's a conflict between what you can get yourself in the booking,
Sure.
even if you're willing to pay yourself.
Yeah.
Not expecting the company to pay.
So how does corporate travel policy integrate with, and that's another point I wanted to raise, how does corporate travel policy integrate to the personal life through the emergence of the likes of your social media? So if you booked on on a corporate trip, how does that merge with what you want to do on social media from a personal point of view, or does the company not care? Anyone want to take that?
I think that the problem is you've got different companies and different travellers and different suppliers with different needs. It's very challenging to create one multifunctional, multi-matrix-based, integrated travel platform, and various people are going to want to do that in different ways. So I think in some respects some of the individuality and some of the differences in the app world, or the expense management platforms, or the procurement platforms, or the leisure industry side of it, are to be celebrated. It's up to, in some respects, some of the corporates themselves to define what it is they're wanting from their travel policy, travel platform, and I think in some respects to take off the shelf some of the apps, etc., that they want, and hopefully they can then stitch them together. I think increasingly suppliers, though, like ourselves, have to come to the table as well. So I know that Travelport, obviously rich content, all those sorts of things, new distribution capability and ancillaries being included, and different ways of distributing apps, etc. The industry and suppliers are coming to the table, but I think it's dependent as well on the corporates, I think, defining and setting expectations in terms of what they want. Is it purely cost management, or is it they want some nuts and bolts and bells and whistles in terms of giving their travellers that additional experiential value, comfort, etc. So I think we shouldn't necessarily besmirch that individuality, but it's how
a case
we
of
stitch it together.
cherry picking what works for you.
Yeah, and I think in some respects that's one of the benefits and the great things about the industry that we work in. The low cost carrier versus the premium carrier versus full service content, or content light. Other platforms who have Concur and other management expense systems built in. It's what you want, I think, and where you want to take your company when it comes to travel.
With that in mind, do you think the corporate travel space, and it's referred to South Africa specifically, is fully utilizing the benefits that mobile offers at the moment?
No, but then I wouldn't say South Africa's alone. And I think it's evident when I sit with corporates, those corporates that know their business, that know the fundamentals, that are able to talk about things like travel policy, market share, and actually can talk to me about revenue on our side, but also what it is they want on their side. And I think increasingly bringing in mobile technology, app usage, looking at products like On Business, looking at the added benefits that they're getting in terms of lounge utilisation, etc. And also, that it's not just airline related; it's hotel and car rental as well. It's how can we weave these things together to create a much more holistic, collaborative approach to corporate travel.
Andy, your thoughts on mobile? Are we fully utilising the benefits that it offers the corporate travel space?
No. No, mobile is great, though I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I've been dragged into it. But mobile is there, it is useful, but there's so much, because it's all over the place still. It needs to bring, as suppliers, we need to get our act together. I think there's so much focus on the next new thing, we forget at times to implement and actually pull it together behind it at a usable level, because everybody's looking ahead, looking down the line. Mobile is very, very useful, but I still know you can do mobile approvals, you can run your whole thing on mobile, but still that screen size is still a limiting element, and the speed, and yes, when you're abroad, the data. I went to Mauritius recently and I didn't realize there wasn't a roaming agreement, and I came back with a bill of 10,000 from 4 days.
Oh dear.
But data abroad is one big issue. It's not as useful if you can only use it here, and you can't use it over there without worrying about the cost, speed. But Europe is now going to single data price roaming. That kind of thing will make a bigger difference, I think, in the general usability than all the apps. It's great, but if you can't afford the data, you've got a problem.
But surely, Robyn, those costs have got to come down. We've seen it with data costs here in South Africa, and that's got to be the case.
Absolutely. And from a corporate perspective, managing a corporate policy, that should be one of the key negotiations that happen with a third party, with a mobile company, with a communications company, that you can actually buy bundles of data that your travelers can take and use overseas, and then make use of the apps. And I think, when you talk about mobile, I think in our personal capacity, everybody embraces the technology that mobiles provide, whether it's through an app or social network. But from a corporate perspective, where that is the bulk of the turnover, that's what the rands and cents in this market. We estimate that it's a 70-30. You're probably looking at less than 700,000 personal or private travelers in the country. For the rest of it, it is corporate market, and they want to manage their travel policy the way they want to manage it. And as a traveller, there's a whole lot more dialogue that happens today than did a year ago, 3 years ago, and certainly the traveller is far more benefiting far more from the policy. But do you want them to use the mobile technology for information? Do you want them to onward book? Do you want to take away the booking? Is it a pushed PNR? I mean, is the PNR live in that booking? And that's also where the TMC plays such a huge role. They should be the ones actually making that, directing the ship, essentially, or the plane, or the traveller.
I just want to get some closing remarks, because we've got to wrap things up. Andy, where are we going, and what do you think the next 10 years holds from you guys at the front line, the likes of yourselves and Robyn at the front line of travel technology? I mean, it's changing so quickly that it arguably, you can make a prediction and you could be way off the mark. But where do you think we're moving? And is there a specific theme or trend that's directing us in a certain direction, or is it completely pie in the sky?
I said before, I've really no idea. There's so much out there. It's going to be a slower progress. It's not going to be as fast as the cutting edge stuff. Really, with the speed we're moving at, when you look at the last, even I spent 5 years at Travelstart, and the changes we saw in that time, at the start, we never looked more than 6 months to a year ahead, because we're moving too fast. We don't know what's coming. It's going to get better and better. But really, I don't know where we're going. It's amazing when you see in the labs and things what they're producing in theory. Driverless cars, can Uber be driverless? Maybe they'll turn up on time instead of being 6 minutes, and 5 minutes later it's still 6 minutes. But Google Glass, it's Uber cars.
More virtual conferencing, that sort of thing.
Well, that's already here.
That's here, but
that's here.
More greater adoption of it. Is that the way forward, that there's going to be a greater adoption of the technology out there?
Technology, but you can't, certainly for a business traveller, face-to-face is still going to be more than important. So much of business is relationships. You can't do that over the phone or over a video conference. But in terms of where we're going to go, yes, I'll take a jetpack and nip down to Cape Town.
Ed, the airline space, where do you think you guys are going? We've obviously now, we're far down the app line. What's next?
That you've got the product on the one side, and I think there's been a lot of focus on the product in terms of obviously seats, new aircraft, A350s that are coming in, 787 Dreamliners, and the possibilities of some of those aircraft are going to be exponential. And Wi-Fi coming on board for ourselves next year will be great. But I think really the most interesting and exciting space is the world of apps and the interface, and again, our app is out there. We're redesigning our website to take advantage of these trends. But I go back to the presentation before in terms of the millennial generation. I think the possibilities are endless. I think in terms of if what you're saying is where are we going, what are we doing? Well, I think it's really up to us to decide. There really is no end to the trajectory that we're on. And I think you'll see more of the social trends actually export themselves into the corporate space. Why is it that we have 10, 20, 30 different apps on our phone and we can manage in that manner? I have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, Instagram, and I'm quite comfortable in using that in different ways at different times. Why, as a corporate traveller, can I not have an expense report app? Why can I not have different airline apps if I'm a frequent flyer with them and I prefer to choose them, or their preferred partner with us? Why can I not have maybe one overall corporate app that stitches it together? it's really up to me to decide, and I think that's really exciting. So this sort of notion of corporate can't do it, and it's sort of alien to corporate. I think it's undoing some of the legacy, relinquishing, I think, some control in some respects, and I think we'll be surprised by the results in terms of actually the fact that you can take receipts now on a photo on your phone, and they're there and loadable, and get your expense report, and it's paid directly into your account and done and dusted. The fact that you can get on your airline app, and in three clicks of your button, you're checked in, you've got your mobile boarding pass, potentially passports on there moving forward. So I really do think the possibilities are endless, and that actually the social millennial side of things is going to export itself and actually probably take over some of the things that we're doing in the corporate space. And I think almost woe betide the corporates that don't adopt and take on some of these trends or become early adopters, because I think they'll find that they will actually become inefficient, slow, and unable to manage their travel programs as effectively as they might want to do.
And irrelevant, of course, which no one wants to be. Robyn, last word to you. What's the future look like?
So, the future for me is going to be a farm stall in Carlersdorp selling with free Wi-Fi. That's about as technology. But I think you've got to look at today. Who are our travelers? It's not generation Y and Z yet. It really isn't. Most of the travelers today like you to print out the itinerary and put it in a Bantex pocket so that they can actually have it on the plane and highlight in color what they've done and where they're going to. So from a market perspective, I think the future is, to Ed's point, exactly that. I mean, there's going to be an interaction of apps that should all talk to one. I think the controls that the corporate market have the greater control that corporate market have taken via policy is probably going to change somewhat. And instead of saying you can stay in a 3-star hotel, they're going to say you can stay in a hotel that doesn't cost more than X. You can spend 300 Rand on entertainment, and it doesn't matter where it is, just, that's your allowance. So the obsession with slips and the obsession with sort of making sure it's on the right day, the right time, and did I actually probably be a whole lot more easier to manage if they just make it a more freer choice. But as far as technology is going, I think we've just seen the beginning of it. And my concern is I hope the business travelers are ready to move as fast or with the same pace, at the same pace, because they, in many cases, are being left behind, and it's not great.
Good place to end it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Robyn Christie, Ed Frost, Andy Hedley, thank you very much for your time.
It's a beautiful day. I can't stop myself from smiling. If I drink in there, I'm buying.
Thank you very much to our panel and our panel coordinator. Please give them one more round of applause. Ed, I wanted to ask Ed a question, Ed. The reintroduction of Iberia, when has that happened already? Is that still? A big party. Sorry, I wasn't invited. I asked this because I have an uncle in Spain and I had to fly there recently. And this is not directly related, but maybe you can do something about it. But I had this
See me after.
experience at customs in Madrid, where they gave them the passport and they said, "What are you doing here?" And I just thought that kind of anti-Semitism is really just something you could look at, maybe. I don't know. We're going to take a break. If on the break, please, Debbie Demant, where are you, Debbie? Please raise your hand, Debbie. Where are you? Okay. Debbie's, for those who want to see the partial eclipse at its 11 a.m. peak, that's in 7 minutes, and you're not familiar with what that is, Debbie will give you an in-depth, point-by-point explanation of the solar eclipse that she just tweeted. Thanks, Debbie, if you wouldn't mind doing that. That is in 7 minutes, the partial. Do you have the glasses? Have you brought the glasses as well? Okay, awesome. She's got the glasses. Everything's there. We're going to take tea, coffee, snacks in the foyer. Please be back in your seats, ready to go at 25 past 11. Thank you.